All right, the Wednesday, March 20th meeting of the Rockport School Committee is now in session. This meeting is being broadcast live and recorded for later broadcast. First item of business is approval of minutes from March 6th. There was one correction that I phoned in actually today to Amanda. Are there any other amendments that anyone would like to make to the meeting notes? No? All right, so I'll seek a motion to approve those notes as presented.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. I don't think we have a public tonight, for those who can't see, but I'm not sure anyone wants to make a comment. Seeing no such effort. Correspondence, there's none at this time, but there is a few personnel items. There are a few personnel items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a couple of quick personnel updates. I want to let you know that John Parisi, who is currently serving as the athletic director, has recently been hired to fill the .5 Dean of Students position at RMHS, so he will have a dual role for the remainder of the school year. There's a short-term position, so he'll be Dean and athletic director, so thank you to Mr. Parisi for stepping in. And Heather Adelphio has resigned from her position of the middle school administrative assistant. So a big thank you to Heather for the years of service in the district, and congratulations on a new position, and we wish her the best of luck moving on. So those are our personnel updates.
Great. Busy time of year, so our student advisory committee rep is not here. I don't know if there are any.
So
updates
off the
you
top
wish
of
to
my
share?
head, high school, middle school jazz programs have gone out to competition and done very well. Don't quote me, I want to say they came back with a bronze from the Massachusetts Jazz Festival, but if I'm wrong, I'll tell you when I come back. And our middle school theater productions are going up this weekend with short one-act plays. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And then our musicians are prepping, and our seniors are, as I talk to seniors, they're frantically trying to figure out where they're going and what next steps are. And so congratulations to all of our seniors who are kind of getting their next steps in order. And
Time is winding down.
time is winding down, and when we look at the calendar and realize how quickly we're going to get to the end of the school year, there's going to be a lot going on. So I'll try to put together like a condensed report from now on at the meetings, just to give us calendar hits and updates so that we know what's coming. There's going to be a lot of fun culminating events moving forward.
Great. Policy Subcommittee, I know there are no first or second reads tonight. Was there anything that either of the subcommittee members wanted to share?
The subcommittee finished our review of Section E. There are a couple policies that we have some holdovers on that we're looking for more clarification, but I believe the next full committee meeting, we should have it available for the first read. So that's for Section E, which would leave us with 3 sections after. So we're gonna push through as much as we can and try to make that. We're going to keep working hard at it. Even though it's 3 left, they are large sections, so it will take some work, but we're going to keep going for it.
It's really moved on at
Making good
incredible
progress.
pace. Yeah, good job.
It's amazing.
I don't believe we have any unfinished business, Dr. Branco, unless,
We do not. We can take the agenda out of order if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair, and jump right to Erin Padistelli, who will give us an update on the Ed Foundation. And if you're, well, we're waiting for the senator. So, oh, you can still do that. We're just going to go out of order and make sure we get it right here. That's all. So, come on up.
You want me to come up?
Absolutely.
Yes. And push the little button on that microphone.
I am now used to that too. Thank you. Great. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Erin Battistelli, and I happen to be this year's president of the Education Foundation of Rockport. And Molly Welsky is the vice president of the board. So she was happy to join me, and we can chat about it, about what we are. And I just wrote a few notes because I don't want to forget anything, and I just want to list real quick as I squint because I left my glasses. So the members of our board this year are, as I said, Molly Welsky, Jillian Boucher, Susan Russo, Heather Dutton-Herlihy, Jillian Parr, Jamie Medea, William Waller, Jim Goodstadt, Jeff Juvier, Lana Rasden, Gail McCarthy, and our superintendent, Mark Branco, is the ex officio. So we are sort of a combination of people who don't have any children in the school system anymore. Some never did in our system, but they believe strongly in the public school system. And so, in particular, Jeff and his wife Eleanor moved to Rockport, and he quickly, jumped on board, and he's been, fantastic. He's been a real, he's a fidelity person, and so he's really helped us with our endowment fund. And so the Ed Foundation, we're 30 years old. That's the other thing I didn't even think about until the event last week. I'm looking, well, we were formed in 1993. And so we're 30 years old, which is amazing. I sent a text message to Chester Clark, who lives in Rockport, and this morning, it was like last minute thought, well, gee, Chester, if you're around, do you want to come to the school committee? Because he's one of the founding members. And so he said, I can't, I'm in Arizona till April 3rd, I've been there for a couple months. Because I thought that would be, really kind of cool, and he's still kind of active in all sorts of areas, but not necessarily in the Ed Foundation. And so he reminded me, he said, yeah, I think I got you involved. And I said, yeah, now that you say it, originally so I was going to jump to the corporate board, how we're structured. So years ago, and now I know it was Chester, he asked me if I would join the corporate board. And I said, I'm doing other things, I'm not sure. He said, look, all you have to do is go to this breakfast at the Firehouse Trust. The Ramsdens are putting on the breakfast, and you vote us in. And that is the function of the corporate board, is to vote the executive board in. And I said, okay, 1 meeting a year, breakfast, really good breakfast, I'm in. And so I did that for a few years. But talking about our corporate board, we've sort of expanded their role. What we like is, yes, they have to vote us in, but they're sort of our cheerleaders in town, and the corporate board reaches people many times who we don't reach. So we kind of, we've got some really good people on the corporate board, and we're trying to sort of beef it up a little bit. So if you have any ideas of people that you think would be interested, please let us know. We have an endowment fund. Now, my understanding when it was first developed, because I was very involved for years and years with the PTO, and so the Ed Foundation, they started talking about formulating this, and part of that was the PTO was not set up in such a way that if you wanted to make a very large donation, it wasn't, and I don't think it is to this day, set up to do that. If you wanted to donate your house, they can't accept that. We can, by the way. It's not totally out of the question, but the other thing that we can do is we can be a conduit for another group's funds. And we have, now correct me about the scholarship, the numbers, because we have our own Ed Foundation scholarships every year that we give out, and I had a number of between 20 and 25,000 a year.
Right.
And do you want to explain a little bit about the other two groups that we can be a conduit for?
Well, the wellness team that
Yeah.
leads the Motif #1 5K race, we hold their money for them, and so our treasurer is the treasurer for their functions as well, so that their money can be held in our account, and it's just earmarked separately. And they have a scholarship as well as, what's the other one?
Easton.
I guess I forget
Those two.
There's two scholarships whose money passes through our accounts.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're set up to be able to do that, and those scholarships every year are given out to people. There's Easton, and I can't remember. Why can't I rember the other?
We talk
name?
about them every week. But were you speaking about Motif #1, the wellness
And in
team
addition,
too?
yes,
in
that
addition
was
to, so there's
right.
two scholarships and the wellness team's funds. So when people go to register for the 5K race, the money comes through. It looks like it's going to the EFR, but it's earmarked for the wellness team because we just hold on to it for them.
They're
And
very
cut checks for
grateful.
them and Venmo and all that. Like Jim does all that for them.
And so so this is kind of my second time around. I can't remember the years, but I got involved with the corporate board, and sort of the next step was eventually to be on the executive board for a while. And when I was first on the executive board, there was a little bit of a push from a couple of members who had great ideas, but they were coming from the outside saying to the school, you should do this, you should incorporate this, and we'll fund it for a year or two, and then we want you to take it on. And there were a few successes.
The
but
strings program is probably
that's
one
probably
of them.
one. There was a VHS, because that's dated, but there was an original, right? But it was pretty successful. But generally, what we have grown to learn is that it is better for us to be looking at it, to asking the schools, asking the teachers, and responding to requests from the teachers about what they need funded that your regular budget can't fund. Did you want to elaborate on
Well,
any of that?
I was just going to say, I think it's noteworthy that Nathan Cohen shared with me that the strings program, at least in its elementary, 4th and 5th grade level, wouldn't exist if not
Oh.
for the EFR, because EFR funded the teacher for that until, for a set amount of time until it was agreed upon that it would be picked up by the school budget,
Right.
if I understand that correctly.
No, I'm glad you remembered that, because
Yeah,
I didn't
because-
remember about the
because-
strings program.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in addition, there are a lot of times that we're funding programs that enhance the music, arts, drama. We've been a strong supporter of DECA requests. There's some professional development programs that I think that we have helped to fund.
Not that I recall.
Oh, okay.
Maybe-
I thought there was an emotional mental health
Maybe.
thing that we received a request for that, and I think that was post-COVID, that, I'm not sure.
It may have been for the students during COVID when they were home.
Okay. Oh, we did
yes,
that too?
Yeah,
That's
we did
right.
some,
Mm.
sent materials home to
Yeah.
students who were studying remotely.
So, I'm trying to think, sorry, my note cards, I just need them, but, I do think for a small school, we have these groups, in addition to us, the PTO, the Friends of the Rockport Athletics, it's just, we're really lucky. Our success partly depends on the generosity of our local businesses. I mean, we couldn't do what we did last Thursday, without all these businesses saying yes to, our request to get, silent auction items. The Shallon Lou, we had a discount, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the auction alone made $6,762.
Great.
So that was from 42 items, some of which went for people overbid. And some, I think we did well having the auction online, because we'd made $5,000 before the event even began because of
That's
people
great.
bidding early. It did prevent some people from using it, those who do not feel comfortable online, being the tech savvy group members of our community, had trouble with that. And at the event, we were trying to assist with that. So we have some troubleshooting around that, but I think still we weren't disappointed with the results. And overall, the online, it just makes it so easy because we don't have to handle the transactions and collect checks and follow up with people and all that. It's enough work just to get everybody their item after the event, which I'm still doing. But but that part of it was a huge success. And do you recall what the number, the ticket sales, we had
I don't
hoped ticket
know.
sales would be better. Ticket sales were okay. The room felt really full. So some of you were there. It felt really full. We potentially could have sold 200 tickets though, and that's why we lowered the price. And I think we upped the budget and the catering, so everyone had like this really great experience. So I'm not sure that they'll stay at $80 for next year, just given that we were really hoping to sell. We were really hoping to sell out and max out the tickets that we could have sold. I think we sold about 130-ish. We wish teacher sales could have been better. To be honest, not a lot of teachers bought tickets. We did have people donate tickets to give to teachers, which some received outright. We had 2 anonymous donors give $35 tickets worth of. They paid for half of 35 tickets. So 35 staff members could have purchased a ticket for $40, which given the 3-hour event, the food that was presented, the entertainment, like, honestly, that's a pretty good deal in town. So we were disappointed that only about 9 faculty, staff members bought those tickets. When given the opportunity, 3 of them did buy a +1 to bring someone. And we did gift, like I said, some people who could not make it to the event. One of our board members had a client buy 4 tickets, which we gifted to the recess monitor team. And some other things like that happened. So we got some staff there, but overall we were sad that we couldn't see more of them. But I do also think our target audience should be looking outside of the school. I don't want to bake cookies to sell to each other,
Right.
like we do all the time. So
I think
so
one
I
of the
think it should be a
reasons-
mix. It should be a mix of like people who want to come have a good time at our awesome party that's to benefit the school, and we want to bring in people who maybe don't know about the EFR, who's like, for them to come in and bid on something is great. Here's a check, or here's my Venmo. And
Yeah.
so we're
I think
looking.
one of the reasons we wanted you to come in too is for no particular reason. I think we often run in parallel and there isn't a lot of visibility unless you're looking at Rockport stuff. And you guys did a great job sort of socializing what was going to happen for the silent auction. But we thought it would just be really great to have a connection with you on a regular basis to come in and hear about this. And I think we often hear about, when I think of the EFR, there's seed money for proof of concept items like the strings program that sustained it until we could actually fund it. There are one-time requests, and there are ad hoc needs. And I think a lot about whenever our students sort of happily advance outside of our district to state finals, whether they're athletics or whether it's the theater program, EFR has waded right in and said, well, we can help you get them there because it's an unexpected expense.
The
And
Drama Llamas are a perfect example of that because it was very expensive for them to go last year,
Right,
and it was
yeah.
not enough time for them to do significant amount of fundraising, and the EFR was happy to cushion that.
right. Or even the minibus, where that was
Minibuses were
not going to be
leases,
possible
right.
without your
Did we
leadership.
lease both of them, the minibuses? Was it,
Oh,
anyway, we
yes.
provided the lease for a set amount of time for the buses, yeah.
Mhm.
Do we have to pick it up?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
Emily reminded me about something.
Oh, great.
So, and also I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that Emily Sousa is our admin person and does so much for us and is going to be updating our website and that kind of thing. So she's incredible. So she reminded me, and I just thought of it again, that a really exciting project is the observatory that we're proposing, and it's slated to be located near the tennis courts. Bill Waller came to the DPW Commissioners meeting yesterday to talk about it. We had the video up that showed the building itself, which would be built in Pennsylvania by the Amish community that contract with the company. The building gets transported to the location and then gets rolled on. If you see the whole video, it's pretty cool. Gets rolled on to the foundation. So we need DPW help. We need to subcontract for the concrete. There's a lot of pieces that have to be put together, but the thing that has happened is that the money has already been raised for the actual building, and we have more money than that. But that's okay because, buildings will need maintenance and that sort of thing, and there's probably some incidentals that we haven't accounted for yet. So the funding is there. We need the coordination from the town, from the school, from DPW, but Bill Waller's done incredible work. It's so exciting. And I envision that this is the type of thing where I think other schools would want to come and set something up where they're going to Rockport as a field trip to witness the stars and the comets and, yeah. So it's a really exciting program.
So we've talked a lot, Mr. Chair, about partnerships, and this is one that,
Yeah.
Dr. Waller's really talked about a lot. And so, yeah, Kirk is working from the school side with the DPW and with Dr. Waller to get a lot of this moving, and it finally feels good.
Feels like
It feels like
it's
it's
gonna
finally
happen.
so close you can see it. And we scoped out the spot and really started to have preliminary conversations about the benefits, not just for our kids, but regionally, how we can partner with with
And
folks.
just the last thing I'll say, and Molly might have more things to add. So we have this continuous fundraiser, and it's like a full circle type thing. We've had an art contest over the course of 4 years, and a number of students, enter their works. They're all great, so someone has a really tough job of choosing one artwork that wins that year. And both the Ed Foundation and the artist retain rights for reproduction. And so what that's done for us is this just continuous fundraiser, and it features, so we have note cards with envelopes, and now we have postcards, which are a little bigger. And so I'm gonna give you all of these. So you're gonna see all 4 artworks, but you each get a package tonight. We sell these at our fundraisers, but the other thing that's happening too is we have 3 or 4 businesses in town that sell them. And so we drop them off, they pay up front, and then they sell them for, they don't make any money, but they're excited to do it because they want to support the schools. So,
The great thing about that is the student gets to put this as like an item on their
Yes.
resume, and they also get a monetary prize out of it right up front. So
And
it's
then
a
the
feel good,
origi-
it's an instant feel good
absolutely,
thing.
yeah. And with the original artwork, the life size of it,
We buy that basically for the
right,
art prize.
and then we raffle it off.
Yeah, well, we've done different things every year. I
Yeah.
don't know what we had. I would
What did we
enjoy
do
the
with last year?
I don't know, because
Yeah.
I don't think I was here yet. When we had an interruption because of COVID.
That's true,
honestly.
yeah.
Anyway,
So I just wanted to I don't think I've forgotten
the
anything, but.
endowment, the endowment's about $750,000.
Right,
Great.
yeah. And I think the original goal 30 years ago was to get to $1 million.
$1 million. So
in
we
endowment.
are trying to get there, but
Yeah.
we need donors.
Yep.
It's no secret. We need people to give money.
Or
we
a
need people
house.
to talk to people about giving us money and giving the Ed Foundation money. So I think one other wish list besides donors is for the staff of Rockport Schools to really know and understand what we do, because I'm not sure that there's quite enough buy-in. I think some teachers do know what we do because they've asked us for money and they understand how to compose a good grant application. So to have the chance to speak to the staff, hopefully at August training, so that we can just quickly introduce what EFR is, why it's different from PTO
Yep.
and FRA, and to say, here's what a good grant application looks like. It's not hard, there are certain things EFR would prefer not to fund, like bus transportation. We want to provide the funding for the educational piece of it. We'd rather buy the ticket to the USS Constitution, not the bus ride to get there, if that makes sense.
So, Mr.
it's
Chair, a
using-
couple things around the school partnership here. So one, we've talked, the principals and I have a conversation about whether that will be August or whether it makes more sense to even get you in earlier, like during a staff meeting. So that, in the spring, when they're starting to think about
Yep.
the school year 24-25, maybe that's when we're planting those seeds.
Anytime.
So we're definitely gonna figure that out between now and August. And the second piece really is this concept of, I was pretty present last year, and then this year, there's been a ton of conflicts in my schedule. So making sure either myself or a designee can attend each monthly meeting, so that what happens is we have that conduit, because I think sometimes they're in a tough spot if we're not sitting there and they're getting asked, does this fit into the strategic plan of the district and the big picture goals? And then if I'm not there or there's no principal there to help that, then they're in a tough spot. So we've had that conversation already about moving forward with that communication. This is my 6th district in 30 years, and I've said this a million times in the 2 years I've been here. I have never been in a community with this level of philanthropy. The amount of money that comes in for scholarships, the amount of money organizations like Ed Foundation raise and give back to the community is literally second to none in my career. I've never seen anything like it, and I've been in big places, small places. Where I live, I've never, don't tell my hometown that, I've just never seen that level. It is quite amazing. So the community support for the school district is overwhelming when it comes to the way they help us out. You kind of said it this way, but one of the things that's important for the public to hear is we don't budget for success. That's a weird way to phrase it. So when our sports teams move on, when the drama llamas move on, when our music programs get to go out and get to the state level, when our academic students get picked to move on in National Honor Society level work, or they get to represent us in a leadership conference, a lot of that is not budgeted for. We budget for good or bad, the base programming, and then all of a sudden our kids shoot for the moon and hit it, that's when we have to come to organizations like this to really say, listen, this isn't a nicety, this is a need in this child or this group of children's lives that's going to push them forward towards growth and achievement. And so that's an important message that, we don't budget for that kind of success on a regular basis. And this concept of pilot and seed money is super important to me, particularly as we continue to talk about right-sizing the district and still moving the district forward. There are places where, we were pretty aggressive with grants in the past 2 years, but there are times when we just can't get grant funding, and we need to come to this organization to say, hey, listen, if you help us get this off the ground, we'll continue to pursue the grants, or we'll continue to look at the budget, tighten it up, and make it happen for next year. So all I can say publicly is it's an amazing philanthropic vibe that comes from the community, and if it wasn't for organizations like this and volunteers like this, what you see coming out of the school district as far as student product and outcome, it wouldn't be where it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Molly, just 10 more seconds. So the process here is any educator can fill out a grant, and there'll be a process for letting them know if they don't know, and then it goes to the board probably for review and approval.
Emily can correct me if my process is wrong, but there's a link on the Educational Foundation for Rockport website that they can put their grant right into. It's basically like a Google form, correct? It is a Google form, and it is self-explanatory, and there's even paragraphs in the grant application that explain what we're looking for and what we prefer not to fund. It's all there, and fairly simple, and it would show up in Emily's inbox, and she's our administrator and checks that email, and then she brings it to our next board meeting. We meet once a month on Zoom.
But there's a sign off with an administrator.
Yes, they have to
That's
get a
really
sign off with an
important.
administrator first. Before they can submit their application, they do have to have their building supervisor, the principal's approval.
Okay, so there's a vetting process to get it in
Yes.
front of you. That's
Yes.
great.
Right.
Well, thank you both for coming. I mean, we can see the value already in having you visit.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna give this little bag to June, and then she will give you, after the meeting, give you, just the note card. And June is next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, that was
Thank you.
great.
So much.
So Emily, I think Senator Tar had to stop and get the tattoo artist who's gonna put the MIT logo on your arm. So I think we're gonna jump to Jason, who was nice enough to come join us tonight. We'll ask him to come up to the microphone. And Jason, let me put some guardrails around this conversation because we're not gonna take up much of your time. You have to come up to that microphone, unfortunately.
I'm actually gonna take not much time at all.
Yes, because I think that the context of this,
Yeah.
and I've actually brought a visual aid that has nothing to do with what you're doing.
Okay.
Came into my mailbox, I think today. It's about the seawall. And it's saying by voting yes, you're supporting, and then it talks about what percentage of the school's total budget would be impacted by this. So they're trying to make a feel-good connection between voting for the seawall, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, with the school. And so what we try and avoid is connecting our endorsement to specific initiatives, because we need to try and keep ourselves separate from the politics of contentious issues. So we do have the deck that I think you probably presented at a number of meetings, which is beautifully constructed. I think it has all the details, just doesn't have the arguments back and forth. And I think our concept here for tonight was to ask you, we hear a lot of people saying that, well, this initiative is good for the schools. And while we understand that in general, affordable housing that allows families to come here is a good thing for the community, and the schools are here to serve that need. Very literally, is there anything regarding the proposal that's headed to town meeting that literally defines a certain amount of housing for people with families? Or we just want a very literal take on why is this good for the schools without going through the whole proposal or and there may not be, but we thought we'd hear from the person who's most involved in describing this.
Well, to start off, I can say that there's no direct correlation between this zoning initiative, the multifamily housing zoning, and the schools.
Right.
And I don't want to represent that there is. That wouldn't be fair to do that. However, just a couple of facts that are out there that kind of are really irrefutable. The first one is that the median home price in Rockport as of last year was close to $840,000. That's median. That's not the high. That's like right in the middle. So what does that tell you? It tells you that single-family homes in Rockport, which is kind of the bedrock of our community up to this point, are essentially unattainable for anyone who doesn't have quite a bit of money. And that rules out lots and lots of people who are in their early 30s and who have kids. It would have ruled me out at that time, for sure. And it rules out a lot of people. So what this initiative is to, and it comes from, from the governor down, the governor, the legislature. This is unanimously supported by the state, by Governor Baker and Governor Healy, both of them, is that, look, we built a smidgen of new housing in Rockport in the last 20 years, and that's another fact. And most of that new housing is simply to replace existing housing, and most of that new housing is just bigger housing on the same lot that the existing housing was on. If you take actually newly constructed new housing, that goes beyond that, you can count it on one hand. So what this is supposed to do is saying, look, we have an initiative to change the zoning to allow for what is called multifamily housing, which is housing that is 3 or more units on a maximum of 15 units per acre. And it allows someone to build that housing as of right, meaning they don't need a special permit or anything. They can go to the building inspector with the plan, get it approved, come to the planning board to get site plan approval, and they've got their housing. The state wants to make it easy for multifamily housing to be built. The theory is that if you increase the housing stock and increase the number of units and maybe make them a little more modest than what's out there now, you're going to create housing that by nature is more affordable than what is on the market now. This is separate and apart from affordable housing, which is a term is bandied about, which really means housing that has some level of actual subsidy. And that's a whole other issue. I'm not even going to get into that, but that could and will in the future be a component of this multifamily housing. But right now, the simple thing is to allow the zoning to get passed, and to allow it to happen. No one's making it happen. I've heard crazy things that the town's going to condemn land, that people are going to be forced to sell. All this, it's really kind of nutty stuff. It's just creating this overlay zone on existing zoning that allows someone to build the housing. And it can be as simple as someone who owns a single family house and who says, yeah, I want to create a multifamily house on this same lot, and I want to create 4 units on a lot that had 1 unit. And if 3 people do that, all of a sudden now you've got a bunch of new units that weren't there before.
Right.
And that's the modest beginning. And that's the way I look at it, is this isn't going to be about some big developer from Boston coming in and, building 200 houses in Rockport. That's never going to happen. It's just not. It's the small stuff that in the end will make a difference. And hopefully it will allow people to live here who have the kids that will go to the school. Because right now they're not.
Right.
We're the oldest community in the state, median
Right.
age.
And I thought that's what you'd say, it's more of an aspirational goal in a sense that if they come in and build those 3 units, they could build 3 units with 1 bedroom in each. So there's no sort of built-in guarantee that any of those units would have kids super literally. That's all I'm saying. I'm
Right.
not trying to torpedo what you're saying. I think he's.
Nope, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Michael. There's no guarantee about anything. There's no mandate about anything. It's just to allow, to give some breathing room for this kind of housing to be built. Because right now, it's not there. And if this zoning initiative is not passed, we're going to be exactly where we are now. And everyone who votes against it can go home and pat themselves on the back. But what do we have?
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's the idea. So that's why turnout on April 8th is going to be key. Turnout, like anything, is going to make the difference. If the people who support it, who want to see this, at least the possibility of it happening, if they show up, if their families show up, if their spouses show up, it may pass. If they don't, there are going to be people there who just don't want anything to change in Rockport.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a
Clarifying
clarifying
question,
question? I'm assuming, so tell me if I'm wrong, that they must be permanent dwellings through this plan. They cannot be seasonal rentals once they're built.
There's nothing in this initiative that addresses that issue. In fact, interestingly enough, Superintendent, I was at a seminar over the weekend at Holy Cross and talked with someone from the state who's involved in this. And I said, are you guys going to say something about whether a community can limit these to year minimum rentals or whatever? And he said, yeah, we're actually in that debate right now. I said, it would be nice if you ended the debate before April 8th so we knew what, you would do, but we're in that debate. But one thing we are going to do, and I've said this to other people too, is that we are, when this April 8th is over, one of the next things we're going to tackle is the issue of short-term rentals in the town of Rockport. But we're not going to focus on just these. We're going to focus on the issue townwide of all the short-term rentals and how to, I know people think that's a concern. And how much of a concern it is, we don't know. How to address it, that's what we're going to try to find out. But the quick answer is no. It's not being addressed in this particular zoning bylaw, but it will be.
Other questions or?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason, for
Oh,
speaking
my
to us
pleasure.
tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, is my understanding, there is not, like you said, this is not going to happen overnight, assuming it passes. It'll be a gradual, right? So thinking about how it possibly could help the schools, there'll be more housing units. We don't know what those housing units would look like, affordable, not affordable, market rate, we don't know. This is not addressing that. But if there's more units, housing units, theoretically, there'd be more families, hopefully more students. Do you know, is there any numbers right now, what the potential housing is? And is there anything right now that shows town-wide what our average, like how many units are there in town now and how many students? Like, I guess I'm wondering, what's the potential for new students we might have in 3 years, 10 years, what that might look like if this passes?
Boy.
So I know in your slides.
That's a tough
Yeah,
question.
in your slides you presented,
Yeah.
in a planning board, if I'm right, there was something about in the overlay district that could be potentially.
Oh, the number?
200.
The number of
something
units?
new,
Yeah.
potentially maximum, right?
Yeah. Forget the students for a second,
Right.
because I would have a hard time. I would be pure speculation. But what I think you're saying is, and this is part of the state's way of. The state says to us, we have to have at a minimum zone. We don't have to have them. We just have to allow the zoning for 652 multifamily units. Well, that makes people's heads spin. 652 units. But they don't realize when the state calculates that number, they consider all the lots in the areas that we've identified as being vacant. They consider it to be completely vacant land, even though that's a fiction, because there are houses on a lot of these lots. So what we pointed out in the presentation is that if you took that number that the state wants and then you subtracted the actual number of houses that are there now, that 652 number goes down by hundreds to like something like 200 and something units. So it's much less, but that's just the way the state says we have to comply with their guidelines, and that's one of their guidelines. So it presents kind of to some people is an alarming number, but it really, it would have to be someone who would have to come in and say, okay, I'm gonna buy every single property here. I'm gonna spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy all this. I'm gonna level them out, and I'm gonna build multifamily housing, and I'm gonna make money doing it. Well, that goes without saying. You won't. So, I mean, that's the fiction. That's why I say, in my view and what I've seen with Rockport, things happen on a very modest scale. They don't happen in a big way. So we'll start to see it maybe on a modest scale, but it's a start. Got to start somewhere.
Great. So I think unless there are other questions, this kind of confirms what we had assumed. And it gives us the talking point we'd need for someone coming up to us and saying, well, why are people saying this is great for the schools? There's not a literal line there, but in general, the hope is that more affordable housing potentially could lower families.
One can say legitimately that it's better for the schools to have this initiative on the books than to not have it. Because to not have it,
There.
what?
We can't quite go there. I think we're not comfortable with endorsing any particular.
No, I'm not asking I'm not asking the board to endorse it at all, or the committee. No. I'm just saying the most you can say, the most one can say is it's a better vision for the future to have the potential for multifamily housing to be built than to not have that potential at all. And, oh, by the way, one thing I did forget to mention, which you should know about. If this does not pass by the end of the year, and that's coming up, that I don't know if anybody's been reading what's going on in the town of Milton. They're just, it makes a lot of news. Actually, there are lots of towns that have already passed this, but because they're the ones that didn't, it's not town, it's a city. They make the news. We're going to lose grants. We may lose funding, including funding that goes to the school. And this is from our town administrator, who was at our last meeting. And we may get sued by the Attorney General of Massachusetts. So that's kind of that's where they're going. And the state is taking this very seriously. If a town refuses to pass this zoning, this initiative, there is going to be pain, financial pain, and that could directly affect the school for sure.
Thank you, Jason.
On that good news,
No,
thank you.
I think your deck really spells out the details of what's impacted, what's not, and I think people can refer to that
Yeah.
for their own.
Thank you for inviting me,
Thank you
and
for coming.
I hope everyone will be there on April 6th with all their 40 friends and family members. I'm sorry, April 8th, yeah. You can be there on the 6th too, but you need to not get exhausted by the 6th to show up on the 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Really appreciate it. My pleasure. So, I think while we're waiting for Senator Tarr, school choice program 24-25, we can knock that off the agenda.
So in your drive, I have the recommendation for school choice. Just as a reminder, that under Mass General Law, there's a expectation of the state that you participate in school choice, which is contrary to what a lot of communities believe. So you're automatically in unless you opt out. So we're going to do a couple things tonight. One, just to review the school choice proposal for the numbers this year, And then, secondly, hope that the committee will make a recommendation to set these in motion. And as soon as that happens, we'll put our advertisement on the website and in the Gloucester Times. We have had a dozen phone calls, maybe even more than that already, to my office. People are just sort of waiting to find out which grades are going to open up. So what you have in front of you is a really careful analysis from the leadership team, based on current enrollment, based on the right sizings and staffing decisions that have been made and will potentially be made in the future. And we're trying to honor the current recommendation of class sizes that is in our policy until any policy adjustments have or haven't been made. So you can just see that we've aligned the K number down the column K to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And in the K 1, 2, 3 range, that keeps the numbers, even with the school choice seats, filled between 38 and 40, which keeps us right in that sweet spot. We know we have a concern with the rising fourth graders, and then fifth grade through ninth grade, we are well within the school committee recommendation with these numbers. So we're proposing to open up 43 seats, with 2 in kindergarten, 2 in first grade, 1 in second grade, none in third, none in fourth, 6 in fifth, none in sixth, none in seventh, and then 16 in eighth, and 10 in ninth. Just as a reminder that we don't, by practice, open up 10th, 11th, and 12th. The rationale behind not opening those up is because high schools have so many different graduation requirements, credit systems. Kids, we went to a physics first model. Some high schools might not have a physics first model, so now they come in as a sophomore or junior and they're not aligned with our tracks. Carefully stated, there are other reasons why sometimes high school students are looking to leave a high school and come to a different high school. So just to avoid a lot of the problematic issues that come with having school choice in 10th and 11th and 12th grade, we have traditionally not opened up those seats. So we're proposing that we remain that way again. We have 24 choice students in grade 12. So when we talk about trying to keep the balance, the hope is you have a number go out and the same number go in. We've always exceeded that number in the past, recently at least. So the hope is that we open up 43 seats, we at least get 12, maybe we get 20 or more. And then ultimately, last year, we had a total of 22 students choice in. And so that's kind of been the average over the past couple of years. And the big numbers last year, we were kindergarten and ninth grade really were the two sweet spots, interestingly enough. So entering elementary school and then entering high school was where we got our biggest hit last year, about 65% of our kids coming out of those two grades. So questions, thoughts, comments?
I have a question about the number for the recommended for 8th grade next year. I guess I'm confused why that number for 8th grade, but so those students, so they would be going in those, assuming they're all filled, those 16 would go into 8th grade.
Correct.
So I guess what's the rationale for that in 8th grade, but not in 7 or 6?
Because we anticipate staffing adjustments in the future based on declining enrollment, similar to staffing adjustments that were made this year.
And if those numbers were, if there were more school choice in those grades, it
The
wouldn't.
more kids in general.
Yeah. But if there were more in 6 or 7, that wouldn't possibly change any adjustments in the future?
So we need to be responsible for meeting the needs of our current tax-paying children first. And so I want to make sure that.
I guess
yeah.
I'm confused. It just seems lopsided. When I just look at it without
So,
knowing that, it feels
I-
lopsided.
When I did my entry planning
Yeah.
and I did my interviews of community members, there was a grandiose perception that my predecessor was filling seats with school choice children to inflate the budget, and which was costing the town money. Not actually true, not what he was doing. However, my move to right-size the district and react to declining enrollment, we can't put ourselves in a position where we're getting a certain amount of dollars for choice that does not offset any staffing adjustments. So these staffing adjustments are being made by current numbers, and we are setting up a predictable model of school choice that will allow us to just continue to offer school choice and still offer the right
Right.
amount of staffing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And just to be, I'm sorry, to be clear for my brain, the 16 or any of these numbers coming in are additional. There are probably other
Yeah, so-
students that will be in 8th grade that may not be part of that 16, but they're considered students.
Well, so if you see the 54 currently in 7th grade right above it, those are current kids. That, once they're in the district, they're our
They're in,
kids. Yeah.
okay, just one,
Yeah.
thank you.
Gotcha.
So if I'm reading this correctly, we currently have 54 students in 7th grade. If we picked up 16 students, then next year our 8th grade would be 70 students.
Correct.
And that's where you're saying we should set the bar for 7th grade.
Based on current staffing projections, yes.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'm just kind of going back to what Mark Warrens was saying. So we're talking about staffing adjustments and putting, so what you're basically saying is adding choice would not change that. So let's say there were, I'm just confused. So we'll have 70 kids in 8th grade and then we'll have 54 and 55. So you're saying that aligns more with what's coming up from the elementary school?
It aligns with the potential staffing model for 2 years down the road.
Okay.
That's
So
the
you're-
best way I can phrase it.
So we're saying
We
adding
know that we're-
choice kids, if we added, 10 choice kids and 10, just at some number, it wouldn't necessarily make up
No,
for,
no. So if we're going to continue to make financial decisions based around declining enrollment, we can't put ourselves in a position where we're gambling on the potential of kids showing up to fill a full classroom. That's a gamble that we'll lose. Nor is that the point of school choice, quite honestly,
Right.
by statute.
Right.
Looking at the 8th and 9th grade numbers, it looks like you're aiming to have about 70 students next year in 9th and 10th grade.
Correct.
Right now we have 65 at 12th grade, and then we see a dip, right?
Yep.
So are you envisioning perhaps 70 students at each high school grade? Some
Down the road.
perfect
yes,
world?
Yes.
Okay.
With the exception of that really small 4th grade class. That would take a strange amount of babies being born in the district, moving into the district, or choicing in.
Thank you.
Do you, this is not, I'm not sure this is something you'd be able to answer, but thinking of the future and, in the budget book, I know we have the projections of what enrollment might happen over the next 10 years or so. Do you see those grades in the elementary school with, I'll say, lower school choice numbers? Do you see that continuing through the middle school when those students are coming up? Or do you think as in maybe a cycle format every 2 or 3 years that school choice numbers in the middle school kind of open up more seats on kind of a cyclical basis? Or is it purely year to year based on those current enrollment numbers?
So based on our current projections, internal and through NESDEC, I think the sweet spot is about 40 students per grade level over time. I think ultimately that's where the district is going to settle. Then we have to project class sizes and staffing patterns that allow for a few move-ins every year, which could happen at any moment. And we have to allow for, some level of choice. But if we leave 2 or 3 spots for potential move-ins, and then we open a choice 3 or 4 seats in that grade, and then we do get 3 or 4 move-ins, or one family with triplets, which has happened, all of a sudden the world changes, and now we're well over the school committee's recommendation, and we know that going over by 3 kids, you can't just hire one more teacher for a classroom of 3, nor can you go back to what some of us have inherited, class sizes of 11 or 12.
I guess, yeah, so it seems like that's kind of more I'm able to comprehend that easily with the elementary classes. But when they go up to the middle school, when they're switching classes and it seems like classes are different level, I guess it feels.
Either way, you divide
yeah.
the total number by the total amount of adults.
So I guess, the enrollment numbers in the elementary school you'd like those similar numbers to continue through the middle school? Maybe that's a better way of asking my question.
Well, you would hope they do, right? You'd hope you would,
Or could you go up a little bit, I guess?
not with our projected
Okay,
staffing patterns.
I guess that was my question, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I have one more question. So I heard two different numbers. So Amy was saying for the high school, it's looking like we're wanting to settle out at around 70 students per class. So the 40, when you just said think we're gonna settle out at 40 students per
elementary
grade,
level.
you're preferring elementary, okay.
And again, over time, that 70 will probably drop closer to 55 or 60. You know, and we don't have a high percentage of kids going to the tech, nor do we have a lot of allotted seats, quite honestly, at the tech, which is a whole other conversation. So we do have, you know, there was a perception that we had this floodgate of kids going out to private schools and going out to tech schools, and the numbers are the numbers. You can check the budget book, and you all have done that. It's pretty predictable, and it's not the percentage that people thought it was. So this is the best analysis we can give you, knowing that we have difficult budget decisions to make for the next couple of years, and knowing that we have a set number of residents. That's the number that I know is real. So I have to work with a real number, and then this almost unpredictable possibility of school choice. The historical data around choice recently is totally different than it was in this community 10 years ago, right? So I don't want to relive the history lesson necessarily for my second year, but the numbers were much larger for a lot of reasons. You know, people were having more kids, there were more people in general looking at choice, and now we've found a sweet spot in most communities in Massachusetts, kindergarten, 9th grade. If they have 3 or 4 schools, parents in the community that's sending, parents often choose that exit grade. So if you live in a community that has a school up to 4th grade, then you might see a higher number of choice kids from that community for 5th grade. Most parents won't make that move for a child in the middle of their time in a school, unless something's going on.
I'm sorry not to know this. How many did we plan for this year? So this is looking to next year with a total of 43.
We opened up, 80 seats, I think, 60 or 80 seats last year. I'd have to go back and check, but we opened up probably double this and got 22 in.
Thank you.
And maybe this is for you or for June or whoever. So we're not seeing that bump in 6th grade at that middle school level necessarily.
Last year
It's
we did not.
kindergarten and-
We did not last year, no. Kindergarten and 9th, yeah. And again, that, you know, you think about where we are geographically, only, you know, nobody's gonna choice their kid for an hour and a half either. So we only have 2 or 3 communities that are really gonna choice, either our, people who choice out are only gonna go to 2 or 3 school districts, and people who choice in are only gonna go to 2 or 3. So they're either satisfied with their middle schools or they're not, or their elementaries or they're not. And so over time, we can make some assumptions on certain communities, but they don't call us and tell us why, usually.
All right, without any other questions, not seeing any, do we have a motion to approve the continuation of school choice for the 24-25 school year in the sets presented?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't believe there's a finance update at this time.
No, but we had talked about, if you don't mind reminding the committee what you and I talked about the timeline for when they'll get the next possible fund flow and why.
Fund flow, you will not see it on the next one because it's the 3rd and the town hall closes out the last day. It's impossible to gather, and our payroll person on vacation, who would give me some salary data. So we unfortunately only have one meeting in April, so you'll see it in May. We can put it online for you in your drive earlier, but it would be a line item for discussion on the first meeting in May.
Okay. I'll ask, is there any walk-on school committee discussion while we continue to vamp
I had a
build
question.
suspense for Emily?
I had a question for the chair. Last year, I believe we had started at town meeting, we opened a school committee meeting. Was that correct? So that we can all be there, so we need to bring a meeting to order before town meeting starts if we have a quorum. Will we be doing that again this year?
Okay, so that's the question. Will we
That's
be
the
doing it
question.
again?
Will we be doing
Yes.
it again this year? Okay. And do we need to be there to open the meetings? Do we need like a
Yes.
meeting spot? Like, are we all sitting throughout
We
the
would need to
gym?
be
Should
there
we- Are we
to-
I
being,
think it's gonna be like last year where we'll sit right
We'll
up
sit
front.
all right front,
We'll sit
okay.
right- yeah, that's my guess.
just because I don't
prominently
know if
displayed.
Amy's, did you participate in town meeting last time?
A little bit. So I don't know if there's anything we can start without Senator Char, maybe baby photos of Emily, or
I could say something.
highlights from the
I'd like
year.
to say something about Emily. Even though she doesn't want me to. I just wanted to say that I think that the youth librarian, youth services librarian, we don't call them the children's librarian anymore because they're for all the youth, is just a really important role. And we've had some really great youth services librarians over the years. And Emily is definitely in that vein. And I think she has a lot of different skills with children of all ages, even though she's getting the award for MIT tonight. I think she has just skills with babies. She does toddler group. There's teenagers, middle school age kids. And I think in a small town like Rockport, the library is really a hub for a lot of kids and a place that they come to hang out, to read, to be with friends, to do different programs. And I think Emily's done a really great job in drawing kids of all ages into the library. So I'm very thankful to have her.
And I think in this age of instant gratification and easy access to information, we need people coaching, probably adults as well, but in this case, young people, around access to information, fact versus fiction, and that libraries cannot go the way of the dinosaur. We need to touch and feel books. We need to read in multi ways, from technology to old school. And so I think that a community that has a library and that has people invested in it and who are using the resources is really an educated and viable community. So I really appreciate it. And you see community after community making tough decisions. We've made our own tough decision a year ago in the school districts, which is not one of our proud moments around that kind of a position. So I do think it's important for the community, and as I look across the Commonwealth and see budgets being cut across the state in these areas, as a dad, it makes me panic just a little bit. And when I look at my dad, who's in his late 70s and going to the library is still like the highlight of his week, that's been ingrained on his four boys. Reading and accessing information and being a lifelong learner, and so I just think that it helps us build community and build strong adults. And so I thank you for the work. I thank the library for its power in the community.
So Emily, on a scale of 1 to 5, in terms of your comfort level being the center of attention, where would you...
I'm more comfortable reading to little kids and singing to babies than I am to do this. But thank you for these kind words. The library is more important and busier than ever. We are lucky, although like many town departments, we may face some budget cuts this year. We are generously supported by our community. People understand the value that this library provides. And we do have, people from 0 to 100 years old in this building every day, coming to meetings, learning new skills. We have a commitment to supporting people in lifelong learning. I was thrilled to be able to join the MIT Media Lab in this Public Library Innovation Exchange program as a 2024 ambassador. So I've been working with them to put together creative learning opportunities for our kiddos. We've been doing coding. We've been lighting up LEDs and playing with perler beads. It's just been an absolute blast. And it's so kind of Senator Tarr to make a point of this recognition tonight, and I'm honored. Thanks, everybody.
Coincidentally, he happens to be here.
We stalled for you.
Come on up.
It's your time to shine.
Don't go away. Well, good evening. I do apologize. I was held up at the State House and my nerves are somewhat frazzled trying to get through traffic, but it is nice to be here in Rockport. So,
Thank you for coming.
oh, my pleasure.
So we've gone through all of the the other minutia of school business, so to speak, and now we're happy to have you celebrate, Emily. And we've talked.
And Emily was just telling us a little bit about the Plix Exchange and how much she enjoyed being a part of it this year.
Great. Well, I do appreciate the opportunity to come and join with you in recognizing Emily. And to be honest, my interest was sparked when I read an article in the Gloucester Daily Times, Emily, about your work and the appropriate recognition that you've received. And it struck me that you are one of those people that every day makes a difference in unlocking the incredible potential that our youth have and in unlocking the power of libraries to transform lives. And I didn't think that effort and those efforts should go unrecognized. And I know they've already been recognized in one way, but I wanted to recognize it in another. And I want to let you know that Representative Ferrante could not be here with us tonight, but she very much wanted to express her appreciation for what you've been doing as well. And I was just struck by your leadership in helping students to understand the potential of STEAM education and the subjects that are encompassed in STEAM so that they can follow those paths that might most interest them. And when you've been doing that, you've not only been sparking their thirst for learning and their thirst to pursue those different career paths, but you've also been helping us all. Because when you do that, you create leadership for the future and human capital for the future that can be transformative for our society. So I just wanted to take a minute and come and say thank you and recognize you. And I did bring a big thank you card from myself and my colleagues in the Senate. And this reads, be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Emily Souza in recognition of being named the 2023-2024 Public Library Innovation Exchange Creative Learning Ambassador, and that is a mouthful. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to and a copy thereof transmitted by our clerk. This is signed by our Senate President, Karen Spilka. It's attested to by our clerk, Michael Hurley, and I'm proud to offer on March 20th of 2024. This says transmitted. We saved the postage because it's getting more and more expensive these days. And because I really wanted to have the honor of presenting this to you in person and just saying that with everything you do, every time you do it, you never know the full impact of what that's going to be. And sometimes just opening someone's eyes to the potential of a career or a subject sparks something deep within our humanity that can lead to things that are inestimable at the time. So thank you for everything that you've done. And I'm happy to be able to present this to you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Well done. I see the superintendent's in motion. Well, perhaps we could enlist everyone to be in part of this, and we could get my my understudy, Paul Murphy, to.
And 2 members of the board too.
Yeah. Okay.
So to take the picture.
Oh, I can see Ross.
That's what he was.
Let Molly do it.
Molly can do it.
Okay.
Where are we gathering?
Let's pick a good spot.
Around the center. Maybe against this wall?
Yeah, that wall would be, do the art wall, better than the TV.
Look at all this amazing Rockport art.
I feel like everyone's
Everyone in this room.
Like that. Here we go.
Alright, we're gonna have to get a little closer. Everybody get a little
Oh, yeah, we have jeans on.
even more.
Don't.
Okay.
Come back here. Go get them. Yeah.
Get my balls out.
Okay,
Are we
that's
ready?
good. Okay, look at me. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3.
Can someone take one?
What?
Oh, with this camera.
Oh, yeah. Turn the camera on. Thank you so much.
Molly, send a text.
Okay.
Send money.
1, 2, 3. Even sound effects.
Thank you.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I can't think of a better way to end the meeting.
Yeah, you and Emily.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, wait a minute. Then I'm going to leave this here.
Right, we'll crop it out.
Yes.
Did you do it, Molly?
I'm gonna do it second.
Oh, wow.
Portrait would be fancy.
Fancy pants.
Perfect.
Does this set the record for most photos at a Rockport?
This is fantastic.
Probably.
Fantastic.
I hope so.
Senator, thank you for
My
coming.
pleasure.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I would be
Emily.
remiss if I didn't thank you for everything you all do on behalf of our students and our schools. I know it's hard work. I know it's without a lot of glory sometimes, and it's certainly without glamour, but it is critically important, and I appreciate what you do. And Margaret and I look forward to coming before you soon, talk about what's happening with us, what's happening with the state budget, and having a discussion about that on another night.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Emily.
Good job, Emily.
All right, so I believe there is a need for executive session
There is.
for the purposes of personnel or contract negotiations. So do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for purposes of contract negotiation and personnel, and then exiting from executive session, not returning to normal? Yes. Seconded?
Yes.
Voice call vote, Kelly, yes.
Riley, yes?
All right, thank you, everyone.